Today on Hands-On Photography, we're going to hop inside the world of Photoshop and I'm going to show you exactly how to change the color of an object inside of your photos. It's pretty easy, actually. Y'all stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Hands-On Photography is brought to you by 8 Sleep. Good sleep is the ultimate game changer and the pod cover is the ultimate sleep machine. Go to 8sleep.com/twit to check out the pod cover and save $150 at checkout. 8 Sleep currently ships within the USA, Canada, the UK, and select countries in the EU and Australia. Hey, what's happening, everybody? I am Pruitt. This is Hands-On Photography, the fine podcast I like to do each and every Thursday that helps you get better at the world of photography as well as post-processing. And today we got a post-processing tip we're going to share specifically on the Photoshop side of things. And today's plan is we're going to take an object that's inside of one of our photos, and we liked it, but we were hoping it could be a different color. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to change the color of an object inside of your photograph. This will work on pretty much any photograph out there, depending on the subject matter. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit more tedious to do, but it is definitely doable. Okay, so the thought process behind this is, say you're working with a client on a project and you shoot something and they realize, oh my goodness, the spec on this thing is not what we expected. We don't have time to reshoot it because the product isn't ready yet, or heck, the product doesn't exist yet, or something of that nature. And they say, hey, can you make it be from this color to that color? Sure, I got you. All right. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop right on into Photoshop and take a look at this here photograph. All right. Now, what you see on the screen, now, if you've been following along on Instagram and This Week in Google and my Twitter feed or what have you, you may have seen this image before. This is a shoe spec that I shot for Adam Shoes, not a sponsor or anything like that, but they did take care of my son. He's the model on this and so forth. So disclaimer is out of the way. Done. Anyway, fine shoe right here. Nothing wrong with it at all. But let's just say that Adam said, you know what? Oh man, we need to make this shoe blue. We need to make this a whole different color blue. Can you fix that up for us? Because we're trying to do some prototypes and get that out there for marketing. I got you, folks. So let's go ahead and take a look at the layer stack here. We got a background layer. Make sure you unlock that and duplicate that layer over here so you're working non-destructively inside of Photoshop. Okay. So I got my extra layer here. And as a matter of fact, I can just turn this bottom layer off for now, just for kicks and giggles. And the best thing to do, you can grab your paintbrush or hit B on your keyboard and just paint in the color, right there. The shoe is now blue. Looks great, right? No, please don't do that. So we're going to undo that. That's not right. But then you have all of these extra tools inside of Photoshop. You have the hue saturation layer and you have solid color layer and things like that to try to adjust it. So let's just open up a adjustment layer here. Let's click here and we'll say hue saturation. And I'll just click on that and it gives me the extra layer right there with a little layer mask, and it gives me all of these extra parameters and so forth. So if I decide to change the hue of the shoe, look what happens. Yeah, it's changing the hue of the shoe, but it's also changing the hue of everything else. And you can attack this a couple of different ways. You can literally just find the color that you want, adjusting the saturation and the lightness and so on and so forth, just to get it to how you want it to look. And then use this layer mask tool down here and just say, you know what, I'm going to brush away everything that does not need to be that color. Okay, so let's just brush away the background. And that's really, really sloppy, I know. So then we go back, change the hues. And now the only thing that's being affected is everything that's not within this mask, okay? But there's an easier way to do that, and a much more defined way to do that. So let's get rid of this here hue saturation layer. Granted, the hue saturation tool is a good tool, but I don't think it fits for this particular job. So we're going to start again. So you saw what happened when we made that adjustment. It adjusted everything in here. We really want to narrow down the selection here inside of Photoshop. And for this example, I'm only going to use one shoe. I'm not going to do the other shoe just for time's sake. So I need to make a selection of the shoe that's right here in the foreground, and so we can change the color of it. So you have a couple of different tools here. You have your lasso tool and your object selection tool and so forth over here in the upper left of your menu. Or you can just use the old-fashioned quick selection tool. The object selection tool works fairly well. I'll try it now. It's got its moments. And as you can see, as I'm hovering over things in the image, it is, that's going to select the sock. Okay. Or here it's going to select this dumbbell, so on and so forth. So if I select this shoe, yeah, it looks like it did a good job ish. So I'm going to click on it one time, and there it has selected it. So if I hit Q on my keyboard, you can see what got selected here in the image. And if you zoom in a little bit, let's see if I zoom in, you notice that it got it wrong right there. It missed that part of the shoe tongue, but that's neither here nor there. You can really fine tune that and fix that. So that's what I'll do now is I'll go back over here to my lasso tool. Okay. And that's just L on the keyboard. And I'll zoom in over here. And then I will hold down the shift key, and I'll just make a circle around that part of the selection. There we go. So now it mastered it. It grabbed a little bit more. It actually grabbed the sock. So again, if I want to fine tune it more, I can. There's still a bunch of other tools. The quick selection tool works really well with that. So let's go back to W, shrink this brush down a little bit. Hold down the Alt key so it does a little minus icon on it. And I can just say, nope, I don't want all of the sock. I just want this piece of it. And then just further fine tune it a little more and tell it what to select. Okay, so again, I went way overboard for this demonstration. I didn't really need to do that for this demonstration, but I wanted you to see that you can select a particular object fairly quickly inside of Photoshop. All right, so again, let's verify the selection just by hitting Q. Boom, that looks good. Today's episode of Hands on Photography is brought to you by 8 Sleep. Good sleep is the ultimate game changer, and let me tell you, the pod cover is the ultimate sleep machine. Whew, y'all just don't know. Consistent good sleep can help reduce the likelihood of serious health issues, decrease the risk of heart disease. You can lower blood pressure, and you can even reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. Seriously, just with getting consistent good sleep. Ain't that something? Do you struggle to fall asleep, wake up in the middle of the night, or argue with your partner over the thermostat? No comment there. The 8 Sleep pod cover works hard all night long to improve your sleep so you don't have to. I got to tell you, the get into the whole thermostat thing, Queen Pruitt likes to sleep with the dadgum fan. That has changed since we've had the 8 Sleep pod cover. Thank goodness. I don't have to wear a hat on my head because she's freezing my head off with that box fan going. All because her side of the bed is cool. Perfect. The pod cover fits on any mattress and allows you to adjust the temperature for your sleeping environment, providing the optimal temperature that gets you the best sleep each and every night. The pod cover features dual zone temperature control, so you can set it for whatever you like on your side of the bed, and your partner can set it for whatever they like on their side of the bed, whether it be 55 degrees on your side or 100 degrees on their side, whatever. It's dual zones, and it's so dadgum awesome. Based on your biometrics, environments, and sleep stages, the pod cover makes temperature adjustments throughout the night. So you're not limited by having wake ups in the middle of the night, and that's just going to really screw up your deep sleep stage. So take all of that into consideration. In addition to its best-in-class temperature regulation, the pod cover has sensors that also track your health and sleep metrics without the need of using any wearable devices like a watch or some type of headband or anything like that. It's just, this is all within the cover, and you don't even feel it. It's just there. Better sleep is the health habit you'll love sticking to night after night. Wake up fully energized with the pod cover so you can tackle whatever life throws at you. I know I do. I'm unbelievable as always, dadgummit. Go to 8sleep.com/twit and save $150 at checkout on the pod cover. 8sleep currently ships within the USA, Canada, the UK, and select countries in the EU and Australia. That's 8sleep.com/twit. And I appreciate 8sleep for supporting the show. Now let's change the color of this. And again, originally we said, you know what, we can just paint the color in on here. We don't want to do that because it's going to look bad. Why? If I paint on top of this, I lose all of the texture. I lose all of the detail and the luminosity as far as it's light here, the highlights are there, the midtones and the shadows are here. I lose all of that with just this paint. So we don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is go over here to the adjustment layers again. And instead of selecting hue saturation, I'm going to select a solid color. So I'm just going to click on solid color and it's going to bring up a whole new layer. And it's going to allow me to pick a color that I want. Client said they wanted blue, so we're going to go with blue. And then this little warning sign on there. So I don't want it that dark, but a little bit darker. We'll go right about there. Okay, so then we hit OK. All right, so now we got a dark blue mess of a shoot. But again, we've lost all of the detail there. That's not good. And take a look at the layer here, the adjustment layer here. Notice again, we have a layer mask because all it's going to affect is everything that was in that original selection. When you create an adjustment layer inside of Photoshop while having a selection on your image or project, the adjustment layer is going to create a mask around your selection, which is just speeding up more the process. It's good stuff. Okay. So since we have this blob of blue on the shoe, how do we fix that? How do we make it look more like the shoe? There's a couple of things you can do, but maybe one of them is right. Pretty much only one of them is right, in my opinion. So we can take this opacity here and pull the opacity down on it like so. And we get back to our green shoe. And as we crank up the opacity, it starts to turn a little bit more blue. Yeah, it's changing color. And yeah, you can see the detail in the shoe and so forth. But it still looks fake. So we don't want to use the opacity. Well, what about the fill? The fill is similar to opacity, but it's hitting different frequencies. So we'll pull that back like so. Pull it up. Yeah, it's turning blue, but again, it still looks fake. So we don't want to mess with that either. What do you do? Well, you have blend modes inside of Photoshop on each layer. And if you look right here, this little drop down says normal. That is the normal blend mode for this particular layer. And if I hit the drop down box, it tells me I have all of these other different blend modes. And if you hover over them, you notice some things will change in your image because they all have their own bit of a algorithm built into them just to display a certain way. And since we're going to be dealing with hue and saturation and luminosity and color for this particular object, we should probably take a look at the blend modes for those specific parameters. So we look at hue, it's going to give us a blue hue. And that looks fine, but that's not necessarily the blue that I wanted. If I do saturation, totally disappears. So that's not it. If I do luminosity, it just gets darker. That's definitely not it. So if I click on color, what color is doing is giving us a combination of the hue blend mode and the saturation blend mode together. So that's what we want. It's giving us a perfect mix. Okay, so click on color, and now this is starting to get where we want it to be because we still have all of our highlights here in the midtones. The detail is there. It doesn't look like someone just grabbed a paintbrush and just slapped paint onto it. This looks like this was dyed properly in the factory. But we can do a little bit more adjustment on it just to, make it stand out properly and make sure the contrast is just right on it. So what I would do now is make another adjustment layer. Let's go with, say, brightness and contrast. There's a couple ways you can attack this. You can use brightness and contrast or levels or curves. Heck, let's just do curves. Curves is really simple. We've played with curves before. So I'm just going to put a little S curve in here just to give it a little touch of pop, a little contrast. So I'm going to drag it down right about there and pull it up right about here. Now, as I did that, you notice something happened here. it affected the whole image. And again, we don't want it to affect the whole image. So how do we have these particular parameters only work on the shoe, the subject, the actual selection? You just hit this little icon down here that stands for a clipping mask, or you can just hold down Alt on your Windows computer or Option on a Mac, right in between the layers there, and you'll see the icon changes, and that's creating what's called a clipping mask. So you click on that, and now it is only affecting the sneaker. So as I adjust this curve, the only thing that's being adjusted is the sneaker. And I think that looks all right there. It's giving us a decent amount of pop there. Not bad. And then I'm going to go back into this color, just double click on it, play around, make it any color I want. You know, if I want to make it some reddish color like that, I can. You know, it's working quite nicely. And again, you get in all of the detail, you get in all of the luminosity. So it doesn't look like it was just, you know, dipped with a paintbrush or something like that. It actually looks like it's been dyed at the factory. So we'll click OK there. And then I'm going to do a levels adjustment layer one more time too. So just do levels. And levels is attacking this in a similar way as far as making sure your highlights and contrast is good to go. So let's just make these adjustments here to my liking. Something like that. Yeah, I think that looks good. Yeah, there we go. So now, there, we're done. Easy, right? It's just a few layers. Zoom out on this. This looks totally natural. It looks like this shoe was supposed to be that particular color, even down to how the shadow is darker and has a darker or lower luminosity from the blue hue there, all the way around to the other side of the shoe. Even the sole, everything just looks great. So if I wanted to, let's just make a little group here and just do a before and after. So this is the before, like so, and this is the after. Easy, right? So, folks, that is going to do it for this week's episode. I like playing around in Photoshop and just making general adjustments, but I've spoken about selective adjustments before here on the show, and selective adjustments can really go a long way in your photography, whether it be just selecting eyes in a portrait to make the eyes stand out, or changing someone's hair color, or changing the color of a shoe or changing the color of a shirt or something like that. It's fairly easy to do inside of Photoshop. There's so many tools, and it's really worth playing around and just trying out and having some fun with it. And yeah, so give it a shot. And if you have a project that you want to share with me, just show me the before and after, shoot me an email over to hop@twit.tv. Again, just send the images. And if you're fine with them being shared on air, say so, but you don't necessarily have to have them shared on the air. But if you want them shared on the air and you're cool with it, that's fine. Just give me your consent, and I'll be more than happy to share with the other fine, loyal listeners here in the hands-on photography community. All right, that's going to do it for this week. Thank you all so much for the continued support. Hey, keep telling people about the show. You know, all that podcast algorithmic magical stuff where you do the likes, the ratings, the share, and all of that good stuff. Keep doing that. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. All of our subscription options are right there on the website, twit.tv/hop. That's twit.tv/HOP for hands-on photography. So check out all of our information there. Get yourself subscribed, get everybody else subscribed, and keep growing the hands-on photography community. Now, again, thank you to my man, Mr. Victor, for making me look and sound good each and every week, because I am not perfect. I'm close, but I'm not perfect. And hey, y'all stay tuned for another episode of Hands-On Photography, because yeah, today we're talking about changing the color inside of a photograph, but you know what? You can actually do the same thing with video footage too. All right, folks, y'all take care, safely create and dominate, and I'll see you next time.
Listeners of this program get an ad-free version if they're members of Club TWiT. $7 a month gives you ad-free versions of all of our shows, plus membership in the Club TWiT Discord, a great clubhouse for TWiT listeners. And finally, the TWiT Plus feed with shows like Stacy's Book Club, The Untitled Linux Show, The Giz Fizz, and more. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit. And thanks for your support.